Hey everyone, this is Gilberto from Maverick Media Lab here, and I am here with Dwayne Woodard from Union Home Mortgage, and he's going to be sharing with us how he's been able to close 3 deals from referral partners, has gotten 20 referrals, and kind of what the process has been for him working with us to make that happen. So Dwayne, I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. It's 8 a.m. Here where I'm at, and I'm sure it's like pretty early where you're at. So I really appreciate you making the time and blocking that out before the day gets pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Thanks
glad
for
to be
joining.
here.
Absolutely awesome. And let's just kick things off by just learning a little bit more about you. Like, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and a bit of your background and how you got into the mortgage industry?
Okay, to be honest with you, I worked my way through college selling Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door. And I sold a Kirby vacuum cleaner to a wife of an area manager that worked for a mortgage company. And so that when I went to deliver it, he had to be there because of just the cost of what this vacuum cleaner was and how his wife was talked into buying one. And so he ended up giving me his business card and said, "Hey, get out of college, give me a call, love to talk to you." Well, I kind of just filed the card away and actually got an accounting degree, started working in an accounting department. It was after about a year that I realized, what am I doing? I don't want to sit here and be in a room pounding a calculator all day long. And so I remembered that card, I gave him a call, and that's kind of how I got into the business. And I've been in the business since, for roughly, I got into it 1982. And I got out of the business about a year before the Great Fall. And the reason why I got out of it was because I just hated the way the business was going. I mean, we were doing types of products of loans that were just terrible type of loans. I had made a pretty good living. I just decided to get out of the business. And so I got out of the business, and literally I've been probably about 4 years ago, I kind of thought, man, how to get back into it. I was kind of really just kind of bored. So I kind of got back into the business, and it was really like, was it Rip Van Winkle? You kind of wake up and you see how much the business had changed. And so really, it's going out there trying to reestablish my clientele, build up a clientele base, because I had been out of the business for at least somewhere between 10 to 12 years. And so I first started working, getting leads from Zillow and also realtor.com. And, and I really would work those, but I'm telling you, it was a lot of hard work for very little juice. And so basically I had someone from your company call me, introduce me into the concept. I got to thinking about it, and I thought, this is something I ought to try. And so I had already made the decision I was going to kill my contract with realtor.com. I didn't want to give up Zillow, but so I started putting some money into this, and it was within probably 60 days, I realized, man, my money at Zillow, I'm just throwing away. This is the direction to go. Because I really started bearing fruit from the very beginning. And the thing that I like about it is that cold calling is the hardest thing to do in our business.
Yep.
And you get so busy doing all the other things that you have to do, working on loans, taking care of clients, working on closings, all of that stuff. And you look up, man, I haven't done any cold calls today. And this really, what Maverick Media is like cold calls on cruise. I don't have to worry about it. It's just something that takes place in the background. I get a text says, "Hey, you need to call this realtor at this time." And it's just a great way to work.
Love it. Cold calls on cruise. I'm gonna start using that. I like that. I like that. I like that. You coined that phrase.
Yeah.
And so when you did Zillow, were you doing like realtor stuff as well? Like, is that something that you already, like, were you reaching out to realtors? Like, was that part of your business already kind of, you had realtor partners, or?
The Zillow deal that I had is that if they wanted a loan, they would like type some information into Zillow, and Zillow would
Right.
send it to me. So it wasn't like directly with a particular realtor.
Got it. Okay, it wasn't like co-marketing. And at that time, like, were you already like working with realtor partners, or you weren't really focused on working with as many?
Well, I mean, I was, but I mean, just the way the industry has changed, it's just so hard to make those connections with realtors versus what it was when I first got into the business. I mean, when I first got into the business, there was, you had your, every week they had a realtor breakfast. You had women's council realtors. You had all these different ways that you could meet realtors that really have kind of went to the wayside. And it's
Mm,
much more difficult to meet those relationships with realtors. And so that's why I like this process so well, is that, it's just a way for us to connect.
love it. That's interesting because you've been one of the ones that's been, really like the longest, like kind of, we have guys that are doing like 15 years, 20 years in the industry. But I think you've been in it the longest. So it's interesting that like you're saying back, like when you started, it was a lot way easier to meet with agents and get those partnerships. But now, with how the market shifted and things have changed, it's a lot harder now, is what you're saying.
I think it is. And,
Okay.
and I really think this is, I mean, to me, I just go, wow, this is just such a no-brainer. Because if I can get on a phone call with a realtor and I can start talking to them, I usually can win that relationship. Because, real quick, they can understand that they can see that I'm seasoned. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. And so that starts making them comfortable.
Mhm.
And so from there, it's really easy to expand that relationship.
All about just getting those opportunities. They mentioned you weren't getting before, and having more of those conversations with realtors, right? And I guess, was there anything else that was, you mentioned like cold calling, like that was kind of an issue because you had all the files, you had like, I'm sure your existing realtors to answer to like their calls. So I guess, was there anything else that was kind of like a bottleneck as well? Like, was it just kind of like the reluctance to do the cold calls, or not enough time to do the cold calls, or what was there other stuff as well that was kind of preventing you from growing the
It's both of those. Nobody, I mean, whoever does cold calling for a living, it's tough. And believe me, I know because I've sold Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door. I mean, you can't get any more rejection than that. But it's just one of those things that it's just so much easier when someone's setting that appointment. You just, I tell you what it is, you just have a much more positive attitude throughout the week. Because if
Mm,
you're sitting there doing cold calls all the time and you're having to deal with rejection, people not, hanging up on the phone and all of that, that affects your attitude.
yeah.
And so it's almost like I don't even have to deal with that because I've got somebody else that's dealing with, getting, not getting a return phone call, people hanging up, being short. I don't have any of that. All I'm doing is I get a text, I get one or two calls a day, and I reach out to that realtor. And so, really, part of it is it just helps me maintain a much better mental focus of being positive about what's going on in my business.
Yeah, it's really hard to, it kind of throws you off when in the morning you're already just getting so much negativity, like in the morning, because
Yeah.
these realtors now, they're getting a lot of cold calls as well from other loan officers. So it's just like they're ruthless. Like they're just they'll say a lot of stuff on there. So it's good to just take that off your plate so you can really just kind of focus on the income producing activities, right? Just talk to
Exactly.
interested realtors, talking to more borrowers and handling those referrals. So good. It's kind of freed up your time, also kind of freed up like mental bandwidth so you can have
Yes.
more positivity in your day, be able to move forward and focus on those things. That's
Plus,
awesome.
it's like almost there's an unseen consistency that's taking place in my business. And what I mean by that, I'm doing all these other activities, but I have this part of the business being done offsite that I'm not even really aware of. And I'm just consistently getting 2, 3, 4 appointments a week to talk to a realtor. And I just think that's just a great way to do it.
I love that. Awesome. And I appreciate you saying that as well. One thing too, like, so now that you've kind of gone into it and, before you were doing Zillow and now you're getting the meetings from the the realtor outreach that we're doing for you, what have been the results? Because I know you mentioned you've got in a funded deal now, you've got 2 that are about to be closing, and then about like 20 referrals. So can you talk a little bit more about like the results, what you've been seeing so far, all of that?
Yeah, I closed my first loan, and I've got 2 more that are going to be closing towards the end of this month and the first of next month. And so that puts me at 3. And really, that puts me like a break even for the cost of the program. So it's almost like anything that I get in the future, that's just like, that's where the gravy is. I've gotten at least 20 referrals. I do track it with all the different agents, and that's going very well. And the thing that you get into is when you first start getting some of the referrals, they're not the quality referrals that you want. But if you work those, you communicate with the realtor on that, it gives you that ability to develop that relationship, that they start giving you referrals of much better clients. Because one of the comments that I've had from one realtor is that I got better communication from you, from people that were very hard to deal with, than I am from my current loan officer on all my easy deals. And so, I think that's the whole key, is that it's just to do good communication with your realtors.
Got it. Just showing them like that you can get the job done, and then also like that you can maintain good communication, that you're reliable, like all of those things. And then they're more open to sending you more deals, right? Has
Yeah.
been your experience.
And then,
And
go ahead.
oh no, you were gonna finish something. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
what I was going to say to you, part of what I had to do is to develop a system of how to work this business. And so that took a little bit to do, but now I've kind of got it where, I'm tracking my referrals from my realtors, so I know which ones I'm getting traction on. Plus, I'm tracking the activity that I'm doing to each realtor that y'all send to me. So I track the initial phone call where I'm setting up that I'm going to send them out some marketing material, going to follow up with another phone call, follow up with a thank you card, follow up with a gift that I send them. And so it's getting that system in place, because if you don't have that system in place, you're really not going to get what you get from the benefit of these referrals that you're sending to me. So,
Yeah, super important.
you do the introduction, but I'm the one that has to develop the relationship.
Yeah, that part is super important. We found like usually when we have like clients that are like doing really great, like you are getting referrals, deals sent, like they really follow what we tell them about, like following up with each one of the realtors, and having a system in place for what to do on the meeting, which it sounds like you've kind of already gotten your bearings on, and you kind of already have a consistent kind of thing that you're able to go over with the realtors on the meetings, and something that you consistently send on the back end too, like the follow-ups and all that stuff. So usually when we do that, like that last part, usually people start to see success, and the more they do that, the more that they start to see more referrals. At that point, the hardest part is done. Like the prospecting and the cold calling, that's the hardest part. The easiest part will just be like just doing that follow-up, and just making sure they don't forget about you.
Yeah.
One thing I was curious about, because you've been in it since, you said 82. So I guess you've seen a lot of loan officers come and go over that time frame, and even probably even recently as well with the recent market shift. So what do you feel is stopping most loan officers when really growing that realtor partnership base? Like what's the thing, or several things that are stopping them?
Kind of something that you said, we were having discussions around the first of the year about the business slowing down, compressing, being less deals out there, less realtors, in a matter of surviving. And so for me, when I was going through this process, I thought, man, I got to go big. I can't sit here and think about, hey, how much money can I cut here? What can I cut here? I've got to have the attitude that if the pie is going to get smaller, I've got to get more pieces of the pie. And so that's been my attitude, is that I'm going to get more pieces of the pie. And so I think that's probably the number one thing that I see other loan officers that are failing, is they get into the attitude that I'm just trying to hold on And
Mhm.
really, this is a time for you to really dig deep and increase your business.
Yeah, that's so true. We talked to a lot of loan officers, and I've seen a similar thing as well. The most common thing that I hear right now is kind of like, yeah, well, everything's slowing down, or yeah, just realtors are slowing down. Very common things that we hear, and like, it's kind of more of a mindset shift, right? If realtors, your current realtors are slowing down, then that's a good sign to get more realtors, right? Because there's buyers out there, like people are still buying homes, right? So they're going to some loan officer, right? So if you can be that loan officer that realtors send business to, I mean, it's regardless of the market conditions, they're still top producers, and they're doing well right now because they're expanding their realtor partnership base. So yeah.
And just another thought on that is that because the business has slowed, each deal is more important to each realtor. And so really that creates more opportunity for you, is because before that maybe they weren't as selective with the people they were working with because there was so much business out there. But now that business has slowed a little bit, man, they want to make sure they're giving that business to somebody that's going to take care of it. And so that's what you have to do, is set yourself apart, is that, hey, you know what? I'm going to take very good care of you, and I'm going to take very good care of your clients.
It's an interesting point you brought up, because like what I found is like for every downside, there's always like an upside, right? And like the market's slowing down, like it's not it might have reduced opportunities for some, but like it creates new opportunities, like how you said, like realtors now value that deal even more, which if you do a great job with it, like they'll trust you more, and like they'll probably stop sending it to someone who wasn't as communicative
Hmm.
before, and now you're their guy that they start sending more
Hmm.
business to. So that's a really good point you brought up. One thing I'm always curious to know, like, you probably get a lot of messages from like all sorts of like different marketing opportunities when it comes to like mortgages. You said Zillow, you did in the past, and I'm sure your inbox is like full with other ones. Why choose to work with us? Like out of all the different options that you have, like what was it that made you decide to work with us and have us help you get more realtor partners?
Well, I can tell you the one thing I did do, because I mean, it was a lot of money starting out of the block. And so I did due diligence.
Yeah,
I called probably 15 other loan officers that had used your services previously. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, I consistently would hear that, yeah, this is something you need to do. Yes, this is something that grew my business. This is something that made my phone ring. And so that was really the thing for me, was that I took the time. I mean, I even went on the internet. I mean, y'all gave me some people to call, but I went on the internet and I found people that had used you that was not really on your referral list, and they all gave you really high marks.
awesome. Yeah, you took that added time to go through like the testimonials and all that stuff. Awesome.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that they told you? I'm just curious to know.
Um, that I mean the biggest thing was that I think what I walked away with from several of them is that you're kind of like the date maker. You make the date, but I'm the one that's got to bring the flowers and develop the relationship. And so that's really what I got from talking to some of the different people, was that you guys are going to set the date, but it was still came back on me that I'm the one that has to develop that relationship.
That kind of bring in the opportunities that you otherwise would not have had, so that you can go in there and really focus on what you do best, is positioning yourself and selling yourself to the realtors and showing them how you can bring the value, and then that follow-up as well. Yep.
Yeah. And then, when you're talking to these realtors, some of them you talk to them and you just realize, you know what, we're probably not going to gel real well. And that's just part of the business. You got to learn, okay, these are the ones that I feel like I can really develop good relationships with. And those are the ones that I'm going to kind of really pursue. That's not saying anything bad about the ones I didn't, but I just try to recognize that I felt like these are the people I could develop synergy with versus just trying to chase everybody. And so, that was one of the filters that I took through, was that, okay, I got to figure out who can I work with, and then how do I actually develop that relationship?
Yeah, it's a very common theme with a lot of our clients is like now that they have so many opportunities coming through, like now they're in a position to like choose, what realtors they want to work with instead of kind of just settle for the ones that, might be like jerks or, might not be like the most pleasant people to like work with. So that's good that you mentioned that as well. You now get to like choose who are like the best ones that you really want to like, be working with for like the next couple years or
Yeah.
more.
And that's
Um,
not to say somebody that I didn't feel like I'd work with, that they're not a good person, not a great person. They just would probably work very well with somebody else.
mm,
I've got to recognize, who am I going to work well with? And that's what I really try to really latch on to.
got it. And final question here, like, what would you say to someone who was in the position where you were at, where you just hopped off the call with us, you were doing your due diligence, like, what would you say to that specific individual who's considering moving forward with this? What advice or what kind of words can you share with them?
This is what I would tell you is, don't be afraid to invest in your business, because that's really what it is. When you make this commitment to sign up with Maverick Media and to do what we're doing, you got to look at it as an investment in your business. It's an investment in your future. And you're going to do your part. You just have to do your part. And if you do your part, it's going to be a win-win.
Love it. Yeah. That's another kind of mindset shift as well that I think is good to like kind of emphasize how it's more of an investment, because I think others kind of view it as like a cost or kind of like something where it's like money out. Whereas like kind of how John Gibbons, one of our other clients on a client interview, said it's like cashing in small checks to make like bigger checks down the line.
Exactly.
Yeah, these realtor partners, like they're going to be working with you for years. So it's kind of just really seen it as an investment that's going to bring fruit. Even as little as like, I mean, you're already closing deals. So, it could happen relatively fast. The one that I did with Randy, another client, he got it as fast as like 30 days, a closed deal, and referrals within like the same week. So in terms of meetings, like it's relatively fast. I think you as well, you've the first couple meetings, like it was within that first week, right? Within those
Oh, yeah.
7 days.
Yeah, it was. The only thing that I could tell you is that I'm better at doing it today than I was when I first started. And so that's the thing that I really would encourage people, is that when you do sign up for this, just try to get better every week at what you're doing. So maybe that first week you don't get all exactly but if you'll sit there and get your system in place and just say, you know what, I'm going to be better this week on the program than I was last week. When you start doing that, you start hitting momentum and it really starts building for you.
Yeah, that was something I had also gotten from one of our clients, Daniel. He mentioned a similar thing because it
Mhm.
was something kind of like yourself, he hadn't done before, especially at this volume. Like it's quite a bit of like realtor meetings that you're getting per month. So at that volume, like you really need a system in place to really make sure that there's consistency across the board. You're not kind of saying random things like on the realtor meetings, that you're following up with all of them. So that's a good point that you brought up, is like really kind of concentrating and focusing on like the system and what you're going to be saying to the realtors, what's going to happen after you meet with the realtors, all that stuff. So that's a good point you
Yeah,
brought up.
because I mean, what I've developed is a script for every call. And so I use the same process, that same script with every client that I'm working with. And it's just a matter of recording their response to my questions. So I can use that the next time that I'm talking to them. I know kind of what we talked about. So there's some of that you have to have a system to do. But, I would say get you a script, a system of how you're going to flow your clients, and then as you're working it, you can make changes and tweaks that makes it better.
Love it. Love it. I appreciate you sharing the advice with someone who's going to be watching this shortly after a call and doing their due diligence at this point as well, like you were at that point. So I really appreciate you just sharing your honest feedback and doing this call, early morning before cracking into the day. I really appreciate you doing, and I'm super happy that you've been seeing like excellent results, and you're closing deals and got all these like great referral partners. So it's awesome. I love
I'm
it.
looking forward for another phone call 6 months from now, as far as talking about how this second stage had worked out.
All the referral partners, all the deals. Yeah, so am
Yeah.
I. We definitely got to do like a follow-up one. Doing
Okay.
like, 20 deals, 20 deals funded, 50 referral partners.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be a good one.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys.
Likewise.